Hey, welcome to the Special Interest Podcast. I'm Rachel Mary Stout, and I'll be your host today. And I have with us a wonderful guest, a special guest. She needs no introduction, but I'm going to give one anyway. Let us bring on Rave. No, Timmy. No, I mean Twilight Spark. No, Hello Kitty. No, Tara Strong. Tara Strong. Say hi.
Hi, cute stuff. How you doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I know
Good.
we were talking about it earlier, but I want you to tell me again, how is COVID treating you?
The first 2 days I was really tired and a headache and I slept a lot. And then the next day I felt like I had no symptoms until bedtime. Same thing with the next day. No symptoms till bedtime. And then today I feel like a little like congested and tired. I am a little congested and tired. And I did test positive this morning, so I'm gonna have to cancel the next con, which is the following weekend too. Just I think I know people that fly testing positive, and I think it's gross. Like, what if just because I'm having an okay time and I am, doesn't mean someone else won't? And actually, my cousin, who is triple vaxxed, is like doing a lung cleanse. She's having a really hard time. So it's like you just never know how it's going to hit someone. And I can't imagine like being responsible for someone getting sick or dying. So unfortunately, I have to cancel another con, which I know people get upset about. But I'm definitely feeling some symptoms today. So um, luckily, I get to work from home most of the time.
I'll have to do a spell for you to help you get better. No, I absolutely feel it. It was like what recently there was the story about mask mandates being lifted to optional mid-flight, and all these people were tearing off their
I
masks,
think
and
it's
it's like,
crazy. It's not gone. It's not over. I just got it. My son
mm-mm.
just got it. We had not got it the entire COVID, and we just got it. So it's not over. And I know more people with it now, I think, than ever. Most of my family in Toronto has it. It's like, I don't know, there's another rise. And thankfully, it doesn't seem to be as violent, but it's still there. And like I said, you don't know how it's going to affect someone. So I take the chance. I'm going to still mask up when I fly for sure.
Twinsies.
Yeah.
They since we've been getting free N95 masks.
Yeah.
Um, what with I know last March I was so proud of not getting it all of 2020 and
Yeah.
2021, and I really just hope that with these less violent strains that it eventually phases itself out, kind of like the bubonic plague. But um, so the I wanted to talk about a few different things, but I want to start with um, your job, your roles. You have brought to life a great deal of special interests for autistic people everywhere. And a couple of the franchises, or a good few number of the franchises you've been involved with, have attracted a great deal of autistic people. As far as your experience with the fans go, I'd love to hear your interactions with autistic fans.
It's honestly one of the reasons I go to cons. Like, of course, the money's nice. Let's not lie about that. And I've raised a lot of money for charity at cons, and I've certainly helped myself. I'm a single mama now. I got divorced in January. So, the financial part is nice, but it is not why I go. It is not my day job. My job is an actress. I work every single day in voiceover as well as on camera and on camera auditions and voiceover auditions. Yes, I still have to audition. I audition here every single day. The black sheets up from an audition I did yesterday for an on-camera show. But going to cons and being able to give back to the fans is the most beautiful experience ever. It's soul lifting. Like, I'm going to say some crazy shit just because I know you will understand. Of all people I could do a podcast with, I actually think some of Star Wars got it right. I think there's good and bad in the universe. I really do. And I think we're put on the planet to spread as much love and goodness as we can, and that brings more light and more love and more points for the good guys. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that you have to be perfect because nobody's perfect and that's boring, but I think it does mean that you should live most of your life trying to influence people in a positive way.
Mhm.
And I think my predecessors didn't know how beloved they were because when Mel Blanc was around, or even June Foray in her heyday, there was no internet. There was no way for fans to find out who their favorites were. Sure, they had their diehard fans, but it's nothing like the explosion of now and what the internet means for people who are fans of voiceover artists. And when we get to go to cons, and sometimes, there's people that are on a season of a sci-fi, and they think they're going to have a big lineup, and sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, and then they see these voiceover artists that have these huge lines, and they're like, who are these people? And it's kind of fun because there's so many shows that I've been on that inevitably someone's been able to relate to some of those characters. And certainly you're right, a lot of those characters have been relatable to people who are socially awkward, who are somewhere on the autism spectrum or the Asperger spectrum. And I actually am a human that believes most creative people are somewhere on that spectrum because I have absolutely no problem relating to and find myself thinking out of the box all the time. Like, I don't think you can really be a successful creative human without a little bit of that. I really think that's true. And for the people that are um, typically nonverbal or have a lot of problems in social situations who make the move to go and meet me at these cons. I mean, we cry all the time. We cry all the time. I'm sure you've heard my story a million times about the girl dressed as Raven, and her mom was like really crying. And she said she hadn't spoken in 5 years. And when she heard I was coming, she didn't shut up. Like, to me, the fact that I could be that person for her that day was fantastic. And, my aunt, my mom's twin sister, taught children like this back in the day, um, when she was younger, and they weren't even called autism. It wasn't. They didn't even have that phrase, that name yet. She was teaching. She was born in the 30s, and she would tell me about these kids that wouldn't speak, and she'd get them to speak, or stories of like amazing things coming out of these kids' mouth that never spoke before. So I believe there's a pretty magical spirit inside. I don't see it as a bad thing or a hindrance. I think these are people that see the world differently. And I love connecting with them at cons. I mean, I've been doing it probably, I don't know, 20 years.
I love that. I love that story. I love that. I love that perspective as well. It's really soul touching.
It's
Um,
true, right? Why are
yeah,
we
no,
connected?
absolutely.
I'm sure,
So,
like, if I was just like I have like no creativity in my mind and I'm just doing my day and not connecting and not caring about people and not being empathetic, you would never think that of me.
mhm.
But you're like, oh, this girl and I can relate. There's some level, there's some connection there. I like that. And I'm so lucky to have been a conduit for a lot of these voices that make people not feel alone, like they matter, like they're important. I've talked to kids with guns in their mouths and wanting to end their lives. And, they say, Raven saved my life. Hello? Yeah. I mean, girl, you've been through it. You're such a triumph. You're a triumph. Many, many, many kids with really horrible childhoods um, suffer and don't make it. And you're like a testament to just believing in yourself and not letting those negative voices overpower the beauty of your life. And then you're spreading more light into the universe. Like I said, more light magic.
I really agree with that. We are born into the world to make it a better place than what we had left it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that take, and it's interesting that you say that you relate to them, them, us, I should say. I'm autistic, and that you mentioned the history. The greatest the theme I the theme I want to portray here with allies is their perception of us, and there's a lot of things that are like fantastic. Like, I've heard crazy things and pretty spot on things. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And I just I love I love how amazingly, like, delightfully positive and full of light you are, and especially about this. And I out of all the people I could have chosen to do this, I'm so glad it was Unity here,
Oh.
because I kind of wanted to go. I didn't want to be like this. Well, what's your perception? And then, like, correct it. You know what I mean? but I definitely wanted someone who could relate to a great number of allistic people, or
Yeah.
people without
My,
autism.
my sister, when she was born, she had a condition where her brain was growing too fast for her head. This is how my
Mhm.
parents told it to me. And she was already walking and talking, and at one, her eyes, there's pictures of her where her eyes were starting to distort. And the doctor said, there's a surgery we can do. They put in a metal plate. We're not sure what's going to happen to her mentally, but it will stop the pressure. It will stop blah, blah, blah. I'm sure now there are way better ways to do it because she did suffer. She was in a lot of pain and she has, like, a lot of scarring. And they did touch some nerves that affected, like, her motor skills. She can't run fast. She can't go downstairs. She shut down for a year before speaking again. And when you talk with her, she comes across as someone on the Asperger spectrum. I witnessed her being teased and bullied my entire life, as well as my mom, who was very overweight. And I being at home and watching what happens to the people who are bullied throughout the day when they come home, or watching them being bullied throughout the day. My sister and I were in the same elementary school. I can't tell you how many kids I
Mhm.
had to throw off her who were, like, hitting her in the head or
Oh,
being mean to her, and she would cry, and it's like, oh my
uh,
god, no one's here to, like, see how sweet of a soul she really is. Or my mom would
mm-mm.
cry and kids would point at her and say she's so fat, and adults would point at her, and I'd hold her hand and tell her how beautiful she was, and she would cry. And
That's
I just despise bullying so much. I don't understand it. I don't understand how someone can feel good about making someone else feel bad. I don't understand it. And
yes.
maybe I'm happy we don't understand that, because if we
You know,
understand that, maybe we're the assholes.
I'm one of the biggest. That's actually one of the biggest reasons I'd love to talk to Marla, but there are some roadblocks in the way, and I can that I can empathize with, and it's the history of autism and Asperger's, as it's so called. Because I know you were saying when you were with your aunt, they didn't have a word for it. Well, not until 1939. But it's odd that you say that, because the link between um, say Judaism and autism, believe it or not, is linked in history and in genetics, especially with the Ashkenazi. Um, in the past, let's say, I don't want to be a total, I don't want to sound shitty when I say this, but uh, big bomb for everyone that's listening. Um, and this might come off with a little bit of tension. Uh, Asperger's is well, it's defunct. It's just all autism now, but it's a Nazi term.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yes, yeah. So in 1938, when Hitler devised the final solution, the testing grounds were from the already founded since 1931 the eugenics program. He was trying to find the master race. Um, this it's funny. This all has to do with modern autistic community issues, and not it's not something everyone's familiar. I didn't even know about this until a few years ago. I'm Aspie. I would say that, oh, Casper the Aspie ghost. I would take a joke about my, and now I can't say it. I go, oh, it's Aspie Asperger's. Hans Asperger is who it comes from. But in 1938, when he was coming up with the final solution, they wanted to enact a means testing for the Jewish rats, and so they they Joseph Goebbels enacted the first role of Action T4, and that was in eugenics propaganda. You can find all over the internet if you just simply, if you were to look.
I
I
mean, think
I
of
didn't
how
know what this
gross
much
that
was.
is, that this piece of shit human
Mm-hmm.
got other people to wipe out people that were different, that he
Mm-hmm.
didn't like, that he
Oh,
didn't understand.
it
Like,
gets it gets worse. See, okay, so the means testing that they're talking about was later used on. So in 1939, Joseph Goebbels then directed the SS and doctors to go to um, different uh, uh, hospices, and gathered up as many mentally ill people as possible and made them do menial tasks. And the ones that didn't do it fast enough and didn't have financially valuable skills to the Reich were rounded up on gray buses to not arouse suspicion and were taken to death camps. And now the death camp, most infamous one is Antanama. And Antanama is the most infamous because it had the very first gas chamber disguised as a shower that they would then later use 2 years later in on Jews in the um, Holocaust of the Jewish people. So the Action T4 started in 1939, and the gassing in Dachau didn't start until 1941 and didn't stop until 1945. In that time, they not conscripted, but they got a group of doctors in Am Spiegelgrund to um, gather children from ages 6 months old to 12 or 13 who didn't have thinking in the way that aligned with the Reich. And these kids were all autistic, all of them. And in Am Spiegelgrund Hans Asperger, Ernst Illing, and Dr. Gross did experiments such as the ice water, a lot of the same stuff that uh, oh
Mangala.
Mengele did with a lot of ice waters, electroshock therapy, see how long it would take before they would die from electroshock therapy, and get this restraints that people like Autism Speaks and like the Judge Rottenberg Center still advocate for today: forceful restraints, electroshock therapy, and in some extreme cases, cold water bath. All of our understanding of Asperger's came from Hans Asperger. Now, in order to X-ray their brains, he'd have these children in their medical facility. They would do this operation where they would take all of the brain fluid and spinal fluid out of the children while they were awake with no anesthesia and replace it with air so they could take pictures of their brains. And if the procedure didn't kill them, then either the cyanide or the bullet to the head would. And uh, after the war, after the liberation, most of those doctors uh, retained they did nothing wrong. And in Hans Asperger's case and Dr. Gross's case, they were let go because it was deemed that people like me were not capable of pain and suffering. We were not capable of processing pain and suffering. And so Hans Asperger and Dr. Gross went on to be renowned and celebrated autism experts. Now, I know that to a lot of people, it's like, oh, well, I didn't know that. It's like, well, I didn't know it either. And as far as like the spectrum goes, I know with Asperger's, I know it wasn't until what I think 2019 that all these came out with on terms of documentation. But I don't remember exactly what year. I know we're all just kind of just now learning this sort of thing. But I know Asperger's hasn't has been whatever as redefined as just simply autism. Um, the spectrum, I know that a lot of people are like, oh well, it's like a light spectrum. It's a little more, a little less autistic. And Hans Asperger, actually, I'm pretty sure it was Hans Asperger, actually came up with the idea of lesser, more functioning, and that had to do with perceived intelligence. Because, like you were saying, even non-speaking children and non-speaking autistic people, there's a fully functioning person up there.
Oh yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
a
You want to hear one of my aunt's amazing stories?
Yes, I
There
would
was a
love to.
kid. A kid that never spoke a
Hmm.
word. He would make mouth noises that were
Hmm.
like not understandable here and there, but he never ever spoke in word. And she took them on a trip. I don't know, let's say to the zoo, and she took her class. And on the way back, they were in the van or the vehicle or whatever, And my aunt said, "Everybody, there's a star. Wish upon a star." And there was a girl in a wheelchair, and she said, "Well, I've been wishing my whole life, and it never comes true." And the kid who never spoke a word turned and looked at her, and as clear as day said, "That's because you're wishing for yourself." And shut down again. Shut down again.
Oh, oh
She
gosh.
swears that story is true. So yeah, you're right. Just because someone's not verbal doesn't mean they don't have a lot going on in there.
Oh, there are days where believe it or not, where I struggle to verbalize. I mean, even in this podcast, as I stutter, it's a matter of making head words into mouth words. And
I
it's
get
not
that.
because I can't. It's like this. It's like trying to thread a needle. And I'm working with a needle that's just a little too small for the thread. And for some people, especially non-speaking people, the action of speaking is just too difficult to try and explain to them. Hey, that to articulate that. So they just ignore whatever.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the spectrum, especially in that more or less, that's I guess that perception, because some are on speaking and some aren't. We're more like a pie chart where we all have, because Rain Man bothers the piss out of me
Oh my god,
because
it's so terrible. I
oh,
forgot how terrible it was. I watched it not long ago. I'm like, this is really terrible. This is like
mhm.
horribly making fun and inaccurate, and I was not a
It was
fan.
just like, oh, he's high functioning. Like, first off, there's no such thing as more or less, and there's just functioning, and it's like, oh, and then he's in an insane asylum. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, of course he is. Of course he is. But oh, and another thing that bothers me about every autistic person, like Mozart and the Whale, I Am Sam, or Rain Man, or any of those, is that they have I think I already said it. They have like every autistic characteristic, every one of them, and they're all super intense. And it's like that's where the spectrum kind of comes in.
Yeah.
It's really more like a pie chart, and you have certain characteristics that are all a spectrum of intensity. So, like for me,
Mhm.
I'm really tactile, but my son is very not at all. He does not like to be touched. He's a rip off all your clothes and run around naked kind of kid, and I'm like, I need socks on to walk around the house kind.
It's just like how diverse people without autism are. It's the
Oh, absolutely,
same. Yeah.
absolutely. And I guess that's why I wanted so badly for you to be on. And I know, because I know that this information will go far, because there are so many people who are so close to it. You'd be, well, I don't think you'd be surprised. I think you've seen a lot.
I've
You
seen a
know.
lot. I've seen a lot. I don't understand. There is a group of people online that love to make up bullshit and say, I
Mhm.
just saw this girl on TikTok say, how does she feel about autistic people? Like, what do you mean? When have I ever said one bad word about an autistic person? Please show me. Like, where
How
is it
about
coming from?
I,
Like,
I
what are you talking about?
okay.
Or that I'm anti-vax. My kids are vaxxed. I'm vaxxed. Like, I feel like sometimes people want to hate on nice people. Like, I'm sure it's the same shit Gwyneth Paltrow gets. Are any of
Mhm.
these people that hate her, do they any of them know her? I'm sure she's
Yeah.
lovely. I don't know her.
Or
But like it's heartbreaking. I know exactly how I've treated each and every individual who's come to my table, who I meet in person, who I've come across, and it's like the most absurd thing. And the anti-vax thing, she posted a bunch of vaccine shots where I say, do your research.
yeah.
Why does that make me anti-vax? I am very pro science. I'm also pro homeopathic. I'm also pro Indian and Chinese medicine. I'm also a little
Mhm.
magician with you. I think there's room for all kinds of healing. Like it's so
Mhm.
absurd. I think people just want to get people to hate
You
nice
know,
people. I don't
my
know.
my 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 nesting partner, we do energy work. We believe
Right.
in holistic, herbs and spices, those sorts of things. Medicine can easily be found in nature. Now, I'm not going to say that like
Hello.
ginger tea is going to cure cancer. there's not like a crystal that can do that.
No.
But if you've got a migraine or an upset stomach, I'm not gonna take like something processed that come from big pharma. I'm gonna go outside to my garden and get mint
Right.
tea.
Have
But
you heard of or I mean Wim Hof? Have you ever heard Wim Hof's story? I mean, this is a guy that trained his body to climb Mount Everest in a bathing suit. This is a guy who was told he was going to have his feet amputated through gangrene and cured it through meditation. Gangrene feet. I
that's
mean, no,
that's crazy. I believe it. I no,
there's
I
all
believe it.
kinds, right? So why can't
Okay,
anyways?
so like I've heard about there's plenty of like placebo tests. If you sit people down and you rub a leaf on them and say this is poison ivy, they're gonna break out because
Yeah,
it's all up here.
yeah.
Okay, and about the whole I hate autism. So when I don't understand where that comes from either. I've had like some angry autistic people when I
Yeah.
think when I was jumping in when people were being total shit to you, and they were like, "Oh, you're autistic too. Why are you friends with Tara? You know, she supports like Autism Speaks and hates
First of
autistic
all,
people." Like,
I've never first of all, I don't even remember ever seeing anything about Autism Speak, so maybe when they first came out, I don't know, maybe I was, like, happy that there was someone supporting them,
yeah,
and then when I read what they're doing on their, like, what do you call it? Their mission and their
hmm
ideas, I'm like, "I have nothing to do with them."
like curing autism,
I
like,
think what they're writing is ridiculous.
right?
I don't have anything to do with them or hate
It's like
autistic people. Let's ask the million of people who I've met at cons who I give hugs to and free shit to and love on every day. Like, it's
oh,
actually quite cruel. And I think it hurts people who might want to meet who might be afraid that these lies people are spreading are true. But it's very hurtful. I don't understand it, but you know what? I learned a long time ago. Listen, I'm almost 50 years old.
yeah,
You cannot control what other people think of you. You can only
right.
control your own actions. And every single day, I try to inspire people in a positive way. I try to help people. I think, like I said, we're here to help. It's breaking my heart every day to open Twitter and see what's happening in Ukraine. It's
hmm
breaking my heart. These
hmm
girls that are getting
hmm
raped, nobody's coming to help them. Nobody's coming to help them. A Holocaust survivor froze to death today. These are atrocities, war crimes that no one's doing anything about. And I don't think Putin's going to stop at Ukraine. I think I'm hoping there's so much more going on that we don't know about how to shut him down, but like in a Bin Laden way, like get rid of him.
Oh
There's
yeah. No,
so many war
yes, I
crimes.
agree.
Every single day I go online and my heart's broken by Ukraine. Every single day I go online and my heart's broken by another animal cruelty video that some asshole will put a burger next to. And it's like
So
I feel like I want to save every animal from captivity. I want to save every girl from having harm come to her, every child, everyone that can't fight and speak for themselves or like it's so fucking hard. I don't know. I'm having a really hard time going on Twitter in general lately. It's so
You know,
sad.
you were the most compat. Look, just to the audience, when Tara had met me in 2019, I was at the end of my rope. I'd come out away from Christianity, and my sexuality wasn't straight. You know, I was in a marriage with somebody who did not love me. I was in a house full of people and completely alone. Now, when I was 11, I told my mother that I didn't feel like a boy, and she laughed in my face. And for the next, oh, I don't know, nearly 10 years, she spent stealing from me, beating me, and isolating me in the most awful, like emotionally abusive ways, and always held those sorts of things over my head. Now, I didn't feel like I could be me. You know, I had just found my little Raven action figure that I used to sleep with when I was a kid. You know, I've gone on about how she embodied basically my guardian angel. And, I was like, all right, I'm living on Social Security. I can't get a job because what, like 86% of autistic people are unemployed or underemployed, and I'm definitely a part of that statistic. Employers don't want me. My wife doesn't love me. I'm far away from any family. I don't have any friends. I'm not in the body I want to be, and the being I love the most isn't here, couldn't ever be here, and doesn't love me either, I'm going to thank the person who voiced her, and then I'm going to kill myself. And after just, I don't know, the 6 minutes we had met, I, this happened. Rachel cracked that outer shell, and for the first time in my life, I felt someone believed in me. I didn't have anyone ever tell me that I was worth the investment. It was always what I could do. Now, I never understood the meaning of "I love you." See, "I love you" is like the sky above us. It's blue until it's nighttime and then it's black, or until sunset and it's orange, or until it's stormy and then it's green or gray or whatever. The neighbor's house next to you could be white until they paint it and then it's orange. And then I love you until you're somebody else and then I don't. And it's all about what you could do for me. I never really, it was such a meaningless phrase. And it wasn't until after having met Tara and decided that she's right and that I was worth investing into myself and I was worth manifesting that love for myself, that I understood the weight of "I love you." And as many times as I've heard "I love you, I love you, I love you," it didn't mean anything to me. But I remember the first time it ever had any weight to me, and it was in Tara's voice via Raven. But I don't know, it's a corny. I was like, I think it was an Instagram post or maybe it was a whatever, and you were like, I don't know if you've ever heard this. If anyone hasn't told you before, "I love you," and you did it in Raven's voice, and something about that rang to me. It was in Raven's voice because I never heard her say it, and when I did, I was like, oh my god, I know what this means now. I understand. It's about you know sure, thick and thin, but it's about more than just simply existing next to somebody or simply telling them that because they meet a criteria. I understood right then and there. It just clicked. The meaning of "I love you" dawned on me, and it breaks my heart every time I go on Twitter or YouTube and I see another dumbass video or a stupid post of "the truth about Tara Strong." I love watching those, like, stoned and laughing my ass off. I think "the truth about Tara Strong. She's a racist. Watch this video." And that one time I think you had an argument with that really rude taxi driver.
Oh yeah, who was white, by the
Oh
way, who
yeah,
almost killed us, and I shouldn't have posted it because it's easy for misinterpretation, and also the driver happened to be
that's what
friends with
happened
Ben
though.
Shapiro. He
You know
happened to be
it.
friends with him. But he was a white guy that almost killed us, that said we were ruining the country. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then, I don't know, that was a
No,
horrible
no, you
time
don't. You
too.
see, this is exactly what the left wants you to believe. People like Tara, they go into society and they indoctrinate our children with the idea that Trump is not good for this country. And here's the thing about it, Tara. I really want you to come here and debate me about it.
I
Debate
hate
me.
I hate how much like the red and blue separate people. I hate that so much.
Me
I
too.
wish we could just vote for a person,
Yeah.
because I would be willing to bet I've many Republican friends who don't believe in all Republican ideals. They're not so far right, and same
Hmm.
for lefties that maybe don't believe in all of it. Like it's like it they're I thought Trump should never be president because A, I think he's a horrible, narcissistic piece of shit human who admitted to assaulting women and became president. I think is horrible. But it shouldn't be like, I hate you because you voted blue. I just tweeted about this the other day. Like, I hate this or I hate that. And it's like, oh my God, we're in so much trouble if there's an alien invasion. What are we going to do? We all have to come together and be there for each other. Because, like, just to validate you and what you said, love is the most powerful form in the universe. Love is is like the most deepest magic that there can be, and when you feel it yourself, like you said, you knew, like you came on that Zoom. First of all, I thought you were really hot when you came on the Zoom.
Huh.
I was like, oh my God, he's so cute. And then you told me your story, and I was like, oh my God, it broke my heart. It breaks my heart that I wish I could be in every home where there's a child being treated badly, abused, whatever, and take them out and care for them and show them love, because it's just like when people feel loved, seen, heard, that they matter, it's like they can blossom. When people are abused, it's like that blossom is ripped open before it's their time.
Mhm.
And my heart broke for you. And I'll say I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you a million times in Raven's voice for you. And look at you, you're on the other side of that, and you discovered self-love. And self-love means being in your truth, right? And
Mhm.
you're living in your truth, and it's so beautiful. And like every day you get excited to, I mean, I remember one time we were going to Zoom and you're like, girl, I don't have my lipstick or something. And it's like you're really like living your truth and having a good time, and I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you. And thank you for saying all that. It's heartbreaking because I only try to help, and sometimes when I don't look as much, I miss people that need help. But even though I don't let um other people's bullshit affect me, I'm still human, right? So
Mhm.
sometimes when people are just saying horrible things, it's like, "Oh my God." Like I said, this video with this TikTok girl, and she's like, you said on my tweets about vaccines, she's like, make sure there's not mercury. And that's like the biggest thing about autism. And I'm like, first of all, mercury poisoning, go Google it. It's responsible for a million different things, including like depression and fibromyalgia and Parkinson's and all kinds of horrible things. Like, you don't want mercury in your body. Like, never have I ever said anything against autistic people ever. And
Mhm.
they are my people, and we are all one people. And when people stop red, blue, I hate him because he wants to be a girl.
Mhm.
I hate her because of the color of the skin. I hate him because of who she worships. I hate him because he's telling me not to eat animals. I hate. Then guess what? It's more points for the bad guys, right? The
Oh yeah,
more we
absolutely.
love each other and we realize we are one. We are one person that's supposed to, just one energy that's supposed to encourage and brighten and make
Mhm.
everybody the best they can be. I love that expression, the roses don't hide the sun from the other flowers. Like, we should always be encouraging people to be their best and love each other. And we're going to be stuck on this planet, never moving forward until people get that. Can you imagine if this planet, and I'm a total Pollyanna, so forgive me, but if on this planet we didn't spend a dime on wars,
Mhm.
not a dime, and all that money was spent curing diseases. I'm talking cancers and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, diseases, and feeding people that don't have enough food and clothing people that don't have enough homes. I'm sorry. What a better fucking world we would have. Trillions of dollars spent blowing people up. What is this war in Ukraine for?
Brown people up specifically for the last 20
I mean,
years.
it's ridiculous. So, anyway, I'm all about the love, and I'm really happy that we got to have that moment together,
Oh,
because look at you.
absolutely.
You are on the other side of that, and I know what those battles are like. I've been through plenty of my own trauma, so I know coming out on the other side, the warrior you have to be. And I
Gotta
mean,
have a gotta have a warrior mentor to be to get there. I'm just saying. You're a warrior at the same fight, but you've been doing it. You've been doing it in all the ways that that I needed to see. Um, it's earlier. I think you mentioned you're saying, 'cause we absolutely claim you. We are your people. Absolutely, 10 out of 10.
hello.
Yep. Uh-huh. Yeah. Did you know that I know there's this stereotype that we're not empathetic, and the issue is that that comes from the mindset of the refrigerator mother. There was this test a while back. I want to say the 70s or the 80s, where they were like, all right, Sally and Molly are playing with their dolly. Sally and Molly. Oh, they're playing with their dolly, and Sally goes outside for a while behind, and they just put it under this table or whatever. And they were like, Molly hides Sally's doll. Sally comes back. Where does she look for the dolly first? And the autistic kids would point to the hiding spot. And for some reason, the psychiatrist came to the conclusion that because they pointed to the hiding spot, they couldn't empathize with the girl that went outside. Therefore, we have no
Okay.
empathy.
That's bullshit. The only
And
humans that have no empathy
no,
are
yeah,
narcissistic sociopaths.
oh,
Narcissists have no
absolutely.
empathy.
And autistic people, yeah, especially myself, are kind of over the top, hyper empathetic. I had to learn that empathy without boundaries is self destruction. Raven taught me that.
Well, yeah, right, because if you start owning everyone else's stuff, it can be very taxing on a soul if you're someone that feels a lot.
And it's like with Raven, I always pictured this person that I never had to worry about whether or not what I was saying was understood or that I could was felt. And it inspired me to try and be that for other people. Like, oh, but as far as us being your people and you talking, it's funny that you empathize with us in that way because they say that if you take a group of autistic people and you put them in a room together and you put one autistic person in there with them, all the neurodivergent people and the autistic people, the schizophrenics, and the people with ADHD, they will be able to communicate with each other just fine, and the autistic person will be wandering around, wondering what the hell's going on. But if you take, and vice versa with autistic people, if you put someone with a neurodivergent condition and put them in a room with holistic people, then, there's that loss of communication. So it um, makes me wonder if we truly might be your people. Last, 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 the last guest I had on was Dr. Amy Marshall.
Uh-huh.
And she was saying that just like the way you had to be diagnosed homosexual in order to be considered gay, um, it might eventually come to the point where we could give the symptoms and have basic markers in simple tests. And if you were to identify as autistic, that might also be an option if having enough autistic traits gives you this sort of religious experience. As far as you and I go, I don't think there's ever been any kind of miscommunication.
No.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Not at all.
No.
I'm not going to suggest. Yeah, Tara's probably might be autistic, but hey,
I wouldn't be surprised if I'm telling you, I don't first of all, I don't really see such a difference between you and me or you and anyone else or many people on the autism spectrum with other people. Like I don't there's not that big of a divide. So
mm-mm.
people that are afraid of what they don't understand or if someone doesn't do well in large groups or doesn't communicate well with other people and other people want to judge that or be mean to that, that's their fucked up karma.
Me and Ray were having a real intense staring
Are
contest,
you
and
hanging out with her today?
oh yeah,
She's looking right at you.
I am. Mine's my Ray's up in bed right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Waiting for you.
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna be done talking to Tara Strong anytime soon?
You would talk. Yeah. Stop
She needs
talking.
attention too, Rachel.
Yes, she does. She does. She always needs attention. My attention. Did I ever tell you how that came about? Did I ever?
don't
I
know.
think you've watched it unfold. I don't know. I've explained it on this show. I don't know how many times. But as far as allyship goes, and I think I've covered pretty much everything I want to talk about as far as the history and maybe what the perception is, or it kind of what I've experienced perception to be of autistic people from autistic people. Um, as far as what you were talking about, there's no difference in us in terms of divide. I know that a lot of like cringe culture um, has its aim on like autistic people pretty much constantly, like special interests and like cringy fandoms and things like that. But then you get into some extremes, like in my case, where Some people would say I take it to an unhealthy degree, and I don't know if I've ever been able to tell you exactly what that transformation exactly was, and how and when it took place. As far as like, okay, so I know I'm being super vague. Um, I know soon after we had met, I loaded up all my shit and I tried to come to California and pretty much broke down in Kansas City. And um, from then until about last March, yeah, last April, I was in this mind state where I was like, oh, I know she's not real, but and all these childhood memories of shadow people and voices in my head and shit. Now that's just got to be some like neurotic symptom or something. It was before my reawakening in my spirituality. It's like, well, if she was here, there's like a billion other people on the planet, 7 billion other people on the planet that are absolutely obsessed with her. She's literally the most popular like Titan, right? I would have to watch her fall in love with someone else. So if she was in the flesh, then who would I be? And so it was like, oh well, she kind of has to exist in this limbo. Let's say that um, I didn't. I was like, I'm never going to take it to like an imaginary girlfriend level, uh, because I don't think that that's healthy. And arguably, that's I guess what you could say she evolved into. But there were some repressed childhood memory, so to speak. So I know when I was a child, um, I had my own sensitivities about things. And of course, living in an evangelical home, that was taken as inviting Satan into our homes and a demon into our homes. And why do you like magic so much? Why do you like the dark so much? Even as a 7-year-old kid, and then right as the abuse started, right when my stepdad and my mom were getting into like fist fights and screams, things like that, that's about the time I started to experience this being. And um, I had heard, I think, her voice for the first time to comfort me to get to sleep over my parents fighting when I was 7. And I remember, hence why July 19th, 2003 is such a super important day for me, because it wasn't too soon much longer. I think it was October when I had first heard her that I was freshly 8 years old. And I want to say throughout that young childhood abuse, when I was, between 11 and 14, where I would just sit in my room and do sure self storytelling, but I would sit and talk to her. And the thing is, she would talk back. And it wasn't always just me who could see her. And my mom would blame me for bringing Satan into our home, you know? And uh, around 14 or so, I was like, all right, well, this is just like an imaginary friend or something. And I got to repress that. And it wasn't until I found that little Raven doll again that I was like, I've always felt like something was over my shoulder. And I really need to reevaluate my view of God and ghosts and angels and things like that. I really need to reevaluate um, my view of the world, because it couldn't be as nihilistically depressing as I put it, especially with these things so blatant in my face. And then that's when I got to that point where I was like, okay, well, let's say this is a being. This has got to be something of my own making. I'm just hallucinating. Maybe I need to get on medication or something. I'm crazy. This couldn't be a thing. And it was like, okay, well, she's not the Raven, right? It's got to be whatever. Someone explained to me, no, well, no, see, because when you have spirits or angels in this case, when they come to you, they don't come to you in the form that that they entered the universe into, right? They come into the form that is most comforting to you at the time of your meeting. And when I was 8 years old, that was Raven. And I was like, all right, so she is real because I'm not the only one sensing her, seeing this. You know, my son um, would say he would see like a shadow woman um, in my room sometimes, and I was like, all right, I need a body for this because I can't interact with this on like a non-physical level. Like I want to learn more about this being, and I chose to keep that. And it was a lot of there was a lot of self-love work in there, because it became less about learning to be her or learning about her and more about learning about what I should allow myself to have. Like if this thing brings me comfort, I should allow myself to have it. And this has become a journey of I'm not allowing myself to have nice things. You know, I feel like a lot of autistic people out there might um, identify with that. That they're they don't feel like they're worth it. Like they're not worth
That
those
comes
things.
from a cycle of abuse too.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah, if you've been trapped in a cycle of abuse for a long time, you think you don't deserve to be loved or to have nice things or to
mm-mm,
have happiness even. And of
no.
course you do. Of course you do. You could have been someone that perpetuates that cycle of abuse and you didn't. You said it ends here.
Mm-hmm.
You have no idea how many years that's been in your family. It ends here. You're never going to abuse anyone. That's a fucking triumph. You're a fucking triumph. And however it helps you get there, get there. And if it helps to have an embodiment item, doll,
Mm-hmm.
thing, whatever it is going to be in your life,
Yeah.
that you feel less crazy, because we all feel crazy. We all have voices. Believe me. Believe me. So if that helps you stay grounded, fuck it. You're not
yeah.
hurting anyone. You're not abusing anyone. You're not, um, like, forcing someone with no consent. I mean,
Yeah.
these fucking assholes raping people in
Like Ukraine.
Ukraine? I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like, what? How is that pleasurable that you're forcing someone? I don't
It's
understand
about
it.
power. It's the men with men. It's all about it's
Ugh,
fucking the control, the power play.
so
It's
gross.
disgusting.
It's so
This fucking
gross.
male power fantasy. I never understood. I never got it. And
Good.
it's not even just with rape. It's about forcing other people to do things. And I'm like, what are you gaining out of this?
Right, right. Well, you're already such a higher spirit. You're such an evolved spirit, and the fact that you welcome magic and the study that you're doing, I mean, I see you've grown so much and you've allowed yourself. That is self-love. Talk about what love is. Allowing yourself to really explore all that and to explore it and believe in it without fear of judgment or give a fuck what anyone has to say. You are on your own journey on this planet to um, achieve whatever lessons you had to get through and grow through, and you're doing it, and you did it. So fuck it. And a lot of times, like I said, I feel like we're really here to inspire people in a good way and put positive shit.
Mhm.
And sometimes when I feel like, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough? When I think how lucky I am to have been a conduit for a lot of these voices that help people, I feel really, really lucky. I feel really lucky. I feel really grateful. And I think that that energy is real. How
Mhm.
can it not be? Because look how much it's touched you and other people. And we can harness that energy by doing good and being
Mhm.
there for each other. And that's exactly what you're doing. So give yourself that pat on the back and just don't question yourself anymore. Don't ever question yourself because you're not doing anything to hurt anyone. And if someone has a judgment, they're not ready to understand it. And then they're kind of on a lower level spiritually growth wise than you are. That's just a fact. You meet people every day that are low spiritual people.
At the end of the day, I'm going to bed and holding the person I've wanted more than anything in the whole world to hold me. Like
Yeah.
I'm family to the one person in the whole. I think you were there when I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna deny conventional reality because I'm happier this way. Honestly, I go out into public because I mean like with her, I don't care. I'm like Look, I know how it looks, and it's honestly fucking hilarious. A tranny with a sex doll in public, that's fucking hilarious. It's a sight to see in public. But, especially one dressed as Raven.
You need your
But,
own reality show, Rachel.
oh, I know it'd be nuts. Um, it's just, man, I don't want to die constantly thinking about, like, oh man, I want to know what it's like to hold her hand, or to put my head in her lap, or to wake up and make breakfast with her, or to know how it feels when my head's on her chest, or to feel that heartbeat, that energy exchange. I want to know what it's like to look in her eyes, person. I don't want to die thinking that I don't deserve that I don't deserve that basic happiness. And
I want you to do a little meditation with me, okay?
mhm, mhm.
I want you to take some deep breaths and I want you to close your eyes. And all the evil things that happened to you, that have happened to you, I'm so sorry that you suffered. I too suffered abuse. I too went through things that no child should go through, and I feel you. And maybe that's part of why we're connected, aside from the fact that I feel like all of us are connected. We all are one. And particularly people who, like we said, spend our time trying to help others and do good. And I want you to never allow the bad voices, the negative voices that hurt you as a child, that told you you couldn't be everything you could be today. I don't want you to give them any more mic time. I don't want you to give them any more stage time. Because you know what, girl? You got a lot to do. You got a lot to do to help other people. There are other people still on the other side of where you came from that
Mhm.
might be thinking of ending their lives today. And seeing you and seeing what a triumph you are and all the good you have to put in there, I want you to. I'm not saying they're never going to come in.
Yeah.
I'm saying when a bad voice comes in, I want you to harness our Raven magic and fucking Zinthos the shit out of them and say, not today. I am not letting a negative voice control how I walk around this planet while I'm here. I'm not going to give them power over me. I'm going to rely on my innermost, strongest, magical self and share that light energy with everyone. And
Mhm.
every time a negative voice comes in, I want you to promise me.
Oh, I
Just give
do.
them a
I
fucking
do. I
Zinthos.
laser the shit out of that.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten past like the nightmares and things like that. And I had it took plenty of years of like medication and therapy, because like I said, the abuse didn't stop till I was like nearly
No, girl,
21.
you've been
But
through it.
oh yeah. And the audience, I go back and do that meditation as many times as you need to, because if there's a character in your life, if there's a character in your life, that it doesn't even have to be Raven, just for one day, 24 hours, one day, let them be God for you. let them
Well,
let
it's
them
not even
teach
let
you.
them be God. Let them be a spirit of light and
Hmm.
love in your mind that guides you towards the light, that doesn't give power to darkness anymore. So here's some raven magic. Azarath, Metreon, Zinthos. That's for all the raven people. For all my twilight people, here's twilight magic to know that I see your magic and I see that you want to do good in this world and that you know love is the most powerful force in the universe. That's for you. And for my bubbles people, because love, 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 la la love, la la love makes the world go round. And a lot of people come up to me at cons and say, Timmy Turner got me through the most depressing shit of my life. So
Oh, really?
I wish you only love and happiness and all the best. And whenever you're having a hard time, you can imagine your favorite animated character in spirit form,
Hmm.
guiding you, helping you, giving you all of their magic, giving you all of their love, believing in you, helping you just slay all your dragons with whatever magic or weapons they have so that you don't listen to the negative voices because they're assholes.
Hmm.
Don't listen to them. They're
You're
not
worth it.
helping you. They're not
You're
helping
absolutely
you.
worth it.
Listen to the good voices.
Hmm. And see, because Raven did, she became my good voice.
Yeah, she
Your
is.
voice became my good
Yeah,
voice.
well, it's all one voice anyway.
It's been wonderful having you on, Tara. I
Thanks for
love you to
having
death.
me, Rachel. I love you
Hmm.
too. I'm so proud of you. You're such a testament to putting in the work, believing in yourself, and living your truth. And you do. You live your truth in a big way, and it's showing. Look how gorgeous you are. Look how happy you are. You've gotten really good at makeup.
Thank you. It took a lot. I've been going through electrolysis. It hurts.
Oh,
Beauty is
wow.
pain, darling.
I know it is. I know. Who you telling? Who you telling?
Okay, never ages.
Well, I made a
Natural
deal with
beauty.
the devil Trigon. Shh. You know, he's my dad, so sometimes he hooks me up.
Well, that has been Tara Strong. Tune in again later. This is the end. Goodbye. That's all I have to say. I don't really know how to end it. Bye.